A traveler entered the village, his steps quick and purposeful. He spoke of a sacred idol hidden deep in the forest. The idol has power like no other, he declared. Its stone eyes glow with the strength of the earth itself. Touch it, and you will be granted wealth beyond measure, a power that can make you a king. The villagers gathered around him, eyes wide with wonder. The tales of riches stirred their hearts, and the promise of power made their hands twitch. Some leaned in, eager to hear more, while others whispered among themselves. "What is this idol?" one villager asked. "And how do you know of it?" The traveler's eyes sparkled with certainty. "I have seen it with my own eyes," he said, "and I will find it again. I will bring its power to the world." The elders, listening from the edge of the crowd, exchanged concerned looks. They had heard these kinds of stories before. Tales that always ended in disaster. The elders stepped forward, their faces serious, their voices like the rumbling of thunder. "You must not seek the idol," one elder said. "It is not a treasure for greedy hands. Many have gone before you, and many have vanished. The idol holds a power that cannot be understood by men." The villagers fell silent, their eyes flickering nervously from the traveler to the elders. "But the power," someone murmured. "The riches it could bring." "The power is not for you," the elder continued. "Those who have sought it before you have disappeared, lost forever in the depths of the forest. The idol is not meant to be touched." The traveler stood tall, a grin spreading across his face. "I do not fear old tales or warnings," he declared. "I will find it. I will touch it. And nothing will stop me." A murmur spread through the crowd. Some villagers were afraid, others uncertain. The elders exchanged a final, knowing glance. They knew what would come next. "I will not be stopped," the traveler insisted. "Old superstitions cannot control me. The idol is mine for the taking." He turned toward the path that led into the forest, his eyes filled with ambition. "I will prove to all of you that power is not a myth. It is real, and I will claim it." The villagers watched as he marched away. Some muttered quietly, "He doesn't understand. The forest will take him too." But the traveler did not hear. His mind was focused only on the idol. The whispers of the villagers fell on deaf ears. He was determined, unshaken. Nothing could make him turn back. As the sun set and darkness wrapped itself around the village, the traveler prepared for his journey. His bag was packed, his heart racing with excitement. "I will bring back the idol," he whispered to himself. The villagers gathered in small groups, speaking in hushed tones. "Do you remember the last one who went?" one asked. They heard voices calling them from the forest. "They disappeared without a trace." "The idol calls to them," another said. "It is not a gift. It is a trap." But the traveler, overhearing the words, only smiled. "I am not afraid of stories. I will not be like them." He walked into the dark, determined to prove everyone wrong. The traveler entered the forest, the trees closing in around him. The village sounds faded away, swallowed by the thick silence of the woods. The air was cool and heavy, and the only sound was the crunch of leaves under his feet. The further he walked, the more the shadows seemed to grow, stretching like fingers reaching for him. But the traveler pressed on, his heart pounding with both fear and excitement. "I will not turn back," he muttered. The trees whispered softly around him, their voices almost like a warning, but the traveler heard nothing but his own desire. "I will find it," he repeated. "I will touch it." Hours passed before he found it, the idol, hidden deep among the trees, its stone eyes glowing faintly in the darkness. The traveler's breath caught in his throat. "This is it," he whispered, awe and greed twisting in his chest. He stepped forward, each movement deliberate, drawn by the idol's power. "At last," he murmured, reaching out with trembling fingers. His hand brushed the idol's cold surface, and a deep rumble echoed through the forest. The air around him grew heavy, a coldness settling over him. He shivered, but he did not pull away. He touched it again, more firmly this time. "This is mine," he said, his voice shaking but resolute. The moment his fingers made contact, the rumble grew louder, vibrating through the ground beneath his feet. The air fell still, the sounds of the forest fading into an eerie silence. The traveler's heart raced, and he felt a coldness spread from his fingertips, creeping through his veins. But he did not move. "Nothing can stop me," he muttered to himself. "I will not be afraid. This is my power." The trees seemed to bend closer, and the silence deepened. The traveler stood frozen, his hand still on the idol. The forest seemed to hold its breath. When the first light of dawn touched the village, it was empty. The traveler had vanished. His footprints led into the forest, but they stopped abruptly near the idol. The villagers searched, calling his name, but there was no answer. His belongings were gone. No sign of struggle. Only the faintest echo of his steps, fading into the silent air. The elders gathered, their faces grim. "Another one lost to the idol," one said. They shared solemn looks, knowing the traveler had joined those who had come before him. Those who sought the idol's power and never returned. The villagers exchanged worried glances. The story of the traveler now added to the growing list of warnings. The idol's mystery deepened, and the villagers knew that whoever dared to seek it next would face the same fate. The balance of the forest was untouched for now, but the danger still lingered. A stranger walked into the village, his eyes bright with ambition, a swagger in his step that marked him as someone who believed he was destined for greatness. He spoke boldly, demanding to know the story of the sacred idol hidden deep in the forest. "Tell me of the idol," he insisted, his voice thick with desire. "I have traveled far to find it. What power does it hold? What riches can it offer me?" Some villagers, wary of strangers, hesitated. They exchanged nervous glances. "The idol. It is a strange thing," one whispered. "Some say it grants strength, but others—" Her voice trailed off as others leaned in. "The idol can give great power," another added, voice trembling. "But it is not a gift, it is a curse. Those who have tried to take it, they have vanished. The idol devours them." The traveler laughed, brushing aside their fears. "Stories. Old tales to keep fools away. I am no fool," he declared, his eyes gleaming with determination. "I will find this idol. I will control its power." The villagers fell silent, some fearful, others unsure, but they could say nothing more to sway him. As the traveler stood among them, the whispers continued, each person telling their own version of the idol's story. Some spoke of its power, its ability to make a man strong, others of the curse that followed those who sought it. "It draws you in," one elder warned. "It is not a gift, it is a trap that devours the greedy. If you seek it, you will lose more than you gain." But the traveler only nodded, his resolve firm. "I will find it," he repeated. "And I will control it. All of you speak of it as if it holds power over you. But I will prove that it is I who will hold power over it." The elders watched him, their faces grim. The chief elder shook his head, his voice low but firm. "It is not for you to touch," he said. "Many have tried before, and they have vanished. Do not follow their path." But the traveler was already walking away, his heart set on the idol. He ignored the warnings, the fearful eyes of the villagers, and the wisdom of the elders. That night, as the stars twinkled above the village, the traveler prepared for his journey. "Riches, fame, and power," he murmured to himself. "None of the tales can stop me. No curse will stand in my way." His eyes glimmered with greed as he gathered his things, his heart beating faster with every passing moment. The villagers watched him from a distance, some with pity, others with fear. "He will be the next to fall," one muttered. "Does he not hear the warning in the wind?" "It is too late for him," another whispered. "The idol does not care for men. It will take him, just like the others." But no one stopped the traveler. They could not, for the idol's pull was too strong. Only the elders exchanged worried glances, knowing that the journey ahead would end in darkness. Into the forest the traveler went, his footsteps quick, his heart racing with excitement. The trees seemed to whisper to him, their voices almost lost in the wind. The deeper he went, the colder the air became. The silence wrapped around him like a blanket, and for the first time, a shiver ran down his spine. The wind picked up, a strange howling gust that swept through the trees. The traveler stopped for a moment, his eyes darting to and fro, but he dismissed the unease. "This is nothing," he muttered, brushing the feeling away. "It is only the wind." But something had shifted. The forest itself seemed to stir. The spirit of the idol, which had slumbered for so long, began to awaken. The trees groaned, the earth trembled beneath his feet, and the wind howled louder, now filled with something else. Something ancient and powerful. But the traveler pressed on, blind to the warning signs, his eyes set on the treasure he believed awaited him. I will control it, he whispered to himself, over and over. I am not like the others. I will take what they could not. He reached the edge of the sacred ground where the idol was said to rest. He paused, glancing back at the village. A faint light flickered in the distance, but he did not turn around. I am not afraid, he told himself. I will be the one to prove its power. His heart pounded in his chest, not from fear, but from the excitement of what lay ahead. Back in the village, the elders gathered once again. Their faces were grave, and their voices low. He does not understand, one elder said. The idol does not give power. It takes it. It is not meant for men to touch. Another elder nodded slowly, his eyes filled with sorrow. We can only wait and hope he turns back. But I fear it is too late. The air around them seemed to grow heavier as the first signs of danger spread. They knew the traveler was not the first to seek the idol, and not the first to disappear. As the traveler moved closer to the idol's resting place, the ground seemed to shift under his feet. The trees groaned again, and the wind howled with fury. The spirit of the idol reached out, testing his resolve. The traveler stopped for a moment, unease crawling up his spine, but he shook it off. I am close, he whispered. Nothing can stop me now. The idol stood before him, its stone eyes glowing faintly in the moonlight. The traveler's heart raced. He had found it. He was about to claim it. His hand reached forward, trembling with anticipation. The air grew thick, and the earth trembled beneath his feet. The trees creaked and groaned as if in warning. But the traveler's greed drove him forward. I will control it, he muttered. It is mine. His fingers brushed against the idol's cold surface. The moment he made contact, a deep rumble shook the ground, and the trees around him shuddered. The forest fell silent, a deep, unnatural silence that pressed in on him. The air grew thick, heavy with an energy that felt alive. The traveler smiled, thinking he had won. But the true test had only just begun. His triumph was short-lived, for the moment his fingers touched the idol, a deep roar echoed through the forest. The villagers, far away, heard the sound, felt the ground tremble beneath their feet. The elders looked at each other in horror, knowing what was coming. The traveler had crossed the line, and there was no turning back. Suddenly, the traveler disappeared, leaving only a glowing handprint on the idol's surface. The villagers rushed forward, but it was too late. The once bold traveler was gone, swallowed by the idol he had sought to control. What have we witnessed? One villager gasped, staring at the spot where the traveler had stood. The spirit of the idol was awake, and the power it held was real. The villagers stood frozen, fear gripping their hearts. The idol had claimed another soul, and they now understood the warnings were not just stories, they were truth. The traveler's ambition had sealed his fate, and the idol's power had taken what it had been waiting for. The village would never forget the price of greed. The villagers search, their voices rising in panic. Where has he gone? One cries, turning in circles. He was standing right there. Another calls out, but the air is thick with silence. The ground is still. Not a leaf stirs. The traveler, once so bold, has disappeared without a trace. The villagers look at each other, eyes wide with disbelief. A few of them stop, listening. There, faint as a whisper, a voice seems to call to them from the depths of the forest. Did you hear that? One asks, his voice trembling. Another listens hard, then shakes his head. No, he says. It's just the wind. It must be. But doubt lingers. The forest, once so alive with the sounds of birds and insects, is now silent. No breeze stirs the trees, no rustle of leaves fills the air. The villagers quicken their steps, glancing nervously over their shoulders. It's unnatural, one murmurs, fear creeping into his voice. The spirit knows, another whispers, as if the trees themselves were watching them. Back in the village, the elders sit in their sacred circle, their faces drawn with sorrow. The air in their meeting place is heavy. This is no ordinary idol, one elder says, his voice low, as though speaking of something much older than the forest itself. It is a guardian spirit of this land, a force beyond our understanding. Another elder nods gravely. It is not just power it offers. It holds balance. The villagers listen, the weight of the elder's words sinking in like the cold that follows the storm. The traveler's greed has disturbed that balance, the elder continues. Now, he is lost. Trapped between worlds. A shiver runs through the villagers. They know the stories, the whispers of those who sought the idol before. They know the price of disrespect. One villager asks in a desperate tone, "What can we do?" The elders exchange worried glances, as though the question itself were a heavy burden. "We must restore the balance," they say together. Only then will the traveler return. The air around the village grows thick. The sky darkens in an instant, casting shadows over the land. A cold wind howls, tearing through the trees, bending them as though they were fragile reeds. "It is the spirit," someone cries. Fear pulses through the villagers as they watch the forest twist in on itself. The earth trembles beneath their feet. The spirit is angry. A voice rises from the crowd. Panic spreads quickly. "It will destroy us all." The trees creak and groan, their branches reaching out like twisted fingers. The wind howls louder, tearing at their skin. The elders are quick to act. "We must offer the earth our respect," one commands. The villagers scramble to gather sacred herbs, water, and fire, the offerings of their ancestors, the tools to restore harmony. The ground beneath them feels like it is shifting, like the forest itself is resisting their efforts. "Hurry," one villager yells, his voice thin with fear. Before it's too late. The ritual begins, but the forest fights back. The trees bend, their trunks twisting in unnatural shapes, reaching toward the village with violent force. Lightning strikes the tallest tree, splitting it in half with a deafening crack. The villagers scream, scattering in every direction, trying to protect themselves from the chaos. "The idol's wrath is upon us," someone shouts. "It will not stop until the balance is restored." The wind howls louder, and the air crackles with the fury of the forest. Yet the villagers push on, determined. "We must restore the balance now," an elder shouts over the storm. "Offer your hearts to the land, give back what was taken." Some of the villagers kneel, their hands pressed to the earth, chanting the ancient words they have not spoken in years. Others hold the sacred fire high, offering it to the wind. "Please," one villager whispers, "bring him back." The storm rages, but the villagers do not falter. Slowly, a hush falls over the land. The wind stops, the trees cease their twisting, and the sky seems to hold its breath. The air is thick, like the earth itself is watching. "It is done," one elder says, his voice quiet, weary. But even in this moment of stillness, the villagers are unsure. "Is it enough?" a voice asks, but the question hangs unanswered in the air, like the fading echoes of a storm. A deep, booming voice shakes the village, rumbling from deep within the forest. "The balance must be restored," it thunders, as though the very earth is speaking. The ground shakes once more, but this time, it is not with the same violence. It is as though the earth itself is testing them, testing their devotion. "We have done all we can," the elder whispers, his eyes closed in prayer. "Now we wait." The villagers fall to their knees, holding their breath, their hearts racing. They have done everything they know to do, but whether it will be enough, they cannot say. Then, in the distance, a faint glow flickers. It pulses like a heartbeat, deep within the forest, beyond the trees. "Look," someone calls, pointing. "Is that him?" The villagers hold their breath as the glow intensifies. It seems to be moving toward them, growing brighter with every heartbeat. "The spirit's final judgment is near," one elder says, his voice heavy. The villagers watch, their hearts racing as the glow pulses in time with the rhythm of the earth itself. The traveler's fate, and their own, now hang in the balance. The villagers gather in the center, their faces etched with worry. Fear fills the air as uncertainty grips them. "What must we do to restore balance?" an elder asks, his voice heavy with the weight of their predicament. "The spirit is angry, and the land is in turmoil," another elder adds. "We must sacrifice," he continues, "but not in greed. It must be a sacrifice of respect." A murmur ripples through the crowd, uneasy whispers stirring the air. "Who will go?" one voice calls out, echoing the question that weighs on every heart. Silence falls, the weight of the moment settling over them like a dark cloud. From the crowd steps a young villager, his face set with resolve. "I will do it," he says, his voice firm, though his heart races with the fear of what lies ahead. "I will touch the idol with pure intentions. Not for power, but to restore the balance." His words hang in the air, surprising many, but there is admiration in their eyes. "May the spirit accept your offering," the elders say, nodding their approval. The villagers fall silent, watching him with a mix of awe and hope. The elders gather around the young volunteer, their faces serious. "You must walk with your heart clear," one elder advises, his voice low and solemn. "Only with the purest of intentions can the balance be restored." The young villager nods, his hands trembling slightly, but his resolve is unshaken. "The spirit must be honored," the elder whispers, his voice carrying the weight of ancient wisdom. "You carry the weight of this task." With that, the young villager begins his walk toward the idol, the villagers following behind, their eyes filled with nervous anticipation. The forest, once quiet, now hums with a strange energy. The air is thick with the weight of the unseen, and eerie sounds echo from the shadows. The land watches, one villager murmurs, eyes darting around. "He must not fail." The young villager steps closer to the idol, feeling the power that pulses in the air. He closes his eyes and stands still, breathing deeply. Then, with a steady voice, he begins the ancient prayer. "Spirits of the land, we honor you. Balance, we return to you." His voice grows stronger with each word. The idol's eyes flicker, faint at first, but soon they glow with an eerie light that spreads across the forest. The ground beneath their feet trembles. The spirit stirs, an elder whispers, his voice filled with awe. From deep within the idol, a voice emerges, weak at first, then growing stronger. "Help me. I have returned," it calls out, echoing from the depths of the spirit world. The villagers freeze, unable to believe what they are hearing. The idol shakes, the ground quakes beneath them. Slowly, the traveler's form begins to emerge from the idol, his body translucent at first, but solidifying as he steps out. He staggers, weak from his time trapped in the spirit world, but he stands before them, alive though changed. The traveler looks at the villagers, his face filled with shame. "I was blinded by greed and ambition," he admits, his voice thick with regret. "I sought the idol's power for fame, not knowing the cost it would bring." The villagers listen in silence, some nodding in understanding, while others look on with sorrow. "I nearly destroyed everything," the traveler continues, his voice filled with sorrow. "I was foolish to think I could control what was beyond me." The elders step forward, their faces somber but filled with understanding. "You have learned a hard lesson," one elder says, his voice carrying the weight of wisdom. "The idol's power is not for the taking, but for the respecting. It belongs to the land, not to any one man." The traveler lowers his head in deep respect, acknowledging his mistake. "I have learned," he says, his voice barely a whisper. "I will never seek power again." The elders nod, offering their forgiveness. "May you carry this lesson in your heart," they say, their words full of strength and compassion. As the traveler stands with the villagers, the ground beneath their feet settles. The winds die down, and the forest returns to its peaceful state. "The spirit has accepted the sacrifice," an elder says, his voice calm as he surveys the calm forest. The balance is restored. A collective sigh of relief rises from the villagers, their fear melting away. "We are safe," one villager whispers, a smile breaking through the tension. The villagers gather around the idol, now calm and still, its power dormant once more. "We must always respect the land and its spirits," an elder reminds them. "The balance must never be disturbed again." The young volunteer, his heart still pounding from the task, nods in agreement. His face is filled with pride, a quiet strength in his eyes. "We learned that power must be respected, not sought for selfish gain," he says, his voice steady. Before the villagers return to their homes, the elders give one final warning. "The idol may rest now, but remember, its spirit will never be tamed. The balance must always be honored." The villagers nod solemnly, understanding the gravity of the lesson. "We will never forget," they promise, their voices full of reverence. With the balance restored and the traveler forgiven, the village begins to rebuild. The air feels lighter now, the forest calmer, and the villagers move with a renewed sense of unity. Together, we are stronger, one villager says, as they work side by side to restore what was lost. And we will always remember the lesson of the idol. The village moves forward, forever changed by the events that unfolded, carrying with them the lesson of respect for the land and its power. The village erupts in celebration. Laughter fills the air as villagers dance and sing, their spirits lifted. The idol's power is calm again, one elder announces, his voice ringing with joy. Children run through the crowd, their feet light, their hearts free. We are safe, a villager whispers to another, eyes sparkling with relief. But we must not forget what we have learned. The elders gather the villagers in a circle, their faces serious despite the joy around them. Balance is the key, one elder speaks, his voice steady. The spirit world and the physical world must remain in harmony. Another elder nods, his gaze steady and grave. The idol has shown us its power, but it is not to be taken lightly. The villagers listen carefully, their minds focused, the weight of the elder's words settling in their hearts. The traveler, now humbled, stands quietly among the villagers, his gaze fixed on the ground. I sought power where I should not have, he admits, his voice low but steady. I was foolish. True power does not come from taking what is not yours, but from understanding and respecting what is given. His words echo through the crowd, and the villagers nod, their faces thoughtful. They have seen the cost of ambition and learned the price of greed. Children, filled with curiosity, surround the traveler. Did you really think you could control the idol? One asks, eyes wide with wonder. The traveler smiles, his expression tinged with sadness. I thought power could be seized, he says, but now I know it is not for us to take. Another child steps forward, her face full of concern. What happens if we forget the lesson, she asks. The elders answer, their voices strong yet gentle. We may fall into the same trap. Power must be respected, or we too may be lost. The villagers listen intently as the elders share more wisdom. It is not just the idol, one elder says, but the land, the spirits, the whole world that must be respected. The traveler nods, his heart heavy with the lesson learned. I will carry this lesson for the rest of my days, he promises, his voice quiet but full of resolve. The villagers, young and old, look at him with a new understanding, knowing the lesson will stay with them forever. As the celebration winds down, the villagers begin the quiet task of hiding the idol once more, returning it to the forest where it will rest until the land needs it again. It must be kept where no one will forget its power, one elder says, his voice steady. Only when the land calls for it will it be revealed again. The villagers work together, the weight of their responsibility clear in their movements. The celebration may be over, but the lesson will live on. Before the villagers leave, one final elder speaks, his voice calm but firm. Remember, the balance is delicate. If we forget the lesson of the traveler, we may find ourselves lost, just as he was. The spirit world is always watching. The villagers nod in agreement, the gravity of the words settling in their hearts. The traveler stands tall, his face resolute. I will not forget, he whispers to himself, the promise echoing in the silence. As the villagers slowly return to their daily lives, the story of the idol and the traveler's lesson remains with them. We live with respect, or we risk being lost forever, one villager says to another. The winds blow softly through the trees, and the village, at peace, continues on, wiser for the trials they faced. The balance has been restored, and with it, the knowledge that power is to be respected, not sought. The village moves forward, forever changed by the lessons learned.